Welcome to Megabucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put megabucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hirschberger.
Welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Nina Hirschberger, and today I'm honored and pleased to have my guest, Yakov Smart. Yakov is a founder of a methodology and a company called Connect and Profit. He's learned how, you and I, we've talked about networking, we've talked about joint ventures. It's a very familiar term in the business world. But he took it up a notch, and his goal is to teach me, to teach you, and he's going to have a special offer at the very end of this radio show to learn how to get high-ticket clients. So, Yakov, welcome to today's show.
Hey, really pleased to be here, Nina. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start out. Tell me the difference between traditional networking and joint venture, and why you call it something different.
Yeah, so those are all, terms that listeners may have heard before. When we talk about traditional networking, I picture going in a room and meeting people and even handing out business cards for those people that do that. And I know for me and for probably a lot of people listening to this, that's an absolute nightmare. There's a lot of things I'd rather be doing than, being in a room where it's completely random and having business cards shoved in my face. So when we talk about Connect and Profit, and the other point that you made about joint ventures, for those people who aren't familiar with the term, it's a collaboration where usually there's some sort of revenue split and, undertaking an endeavor to create a profit where, the whole is kind of greater than the sum of all parts, right? So with Connect and Profit, where that idea came from was from personal experience. When I got into business, my first undertaking, my first business that I grew into a multiple six-figure business was all around teaching people how to market on LinkedIn, teaching business owners how to generate leads and find clients on LinkedIn. And inadvertently for that business, I didn't do a lot of learning around joint ventures, but I just had a way, I was always able to pinpoint people who had resources that when we came together, we could create something called this Connect and Profit effect. And sometimes that was through doing a joint venture where they put me in front of their database or even their customers and put a piece of content in front of those folks. Or sometimes it was, appearing on their platform, or sometimes it was just them, showcasing a piece of content that I had, right? And the difference between joint ventures and Connect and Profit is Connect and Profit encompasses a whole different kind of intention, okay? Because with joint ventures, it's usually about the money, right? It's like, okay, this person will do something as a revenue generator, right? Whether that's a webinar, driving people to your offer, whatever the case may be. Or, sometimes more of a long-term play. Versus Connect and Profit, there's a number of different ways to give value, right? The most common one is people will feature your content, or people will feature you as the expert because it makes them look good, because it adds value to their audience, right? Or it addresses something their audience is very curious about. So Connect and Profit is more so, it encompasses, leveraging, and the term I use, other people's people, okay? And that could include their customers, that could include their databases, their social media followings, they're being featured in their different content. So it's any different way, and to really sum it up and get succinct here, it's all the different ways to be intentional in tapping into other people's people for making that initial connection with that key contact, that connector who has your people, right? And then creating a win-win-win opportunity for everyone, right? Where you profit, they receive tremendous value, and of course their people receive tremendous value. And that's what Connect and Profit is all about.
So, Yakov, let me ask you, am I hearing you to say that the first thing is to add value first?
Absolutely. And, that's one of the mistakes that I think people make with, because conceptually we hear about referral relationships, or the idea is great, this person has hundreds of my best customers. And then the issue, though, becomes the value imbalance, right? Because you have to ask yourself, why would that person go through the trouble of putting you in front of their people, right? Because there's a lot of risk. What if you suck, right? What if you don't deliver on your promises? Or, usually those people are already making plenty of money, right? So it's not about, another money-making opportunity. They can make money marketing and promoting their own stuff, right? So we have to look at the value exchange, right? We have to address this value imbalance. And one of the ways to do that is before you connect with anyone who could be a potential source of, customers or audience or other people for you, you have to ask yourself, what are the unique ways you can give value to them for their situation? It's putting yourself in their shoes, right? And I'll give everyone a hint. It usually doesn't start with the money. Money is great. We all love money. At the same time, oftentimes these people who are in this position of influence, connectors, as we call them inside Connect and Profit, there's other things that will really be a benefit to them other than money or to go with money. So, for example, it can be that they have a newsletter that they're sending out every month, and rather than them creating content for the newsletter, you have something that they could just plug in there, right, that adds value to their audience. It's highly relevant. It could be that you have something that makes them look good, right? You have a unique background or unique area of authority that makes them look good by showcasing you, okay? It could be that, their audience has a major challenge or a major problem, and your content or your offer is a natural fit. It's a natural solution that doesn't compete, right? So we have to look at these opportunities in terms of what are all the different boxes you can check, what are all the different ways you can give value to that other person on the receiving end. And yeah, giving someone a kickback or a referral commission is nice, and sometimes that's part of the deal, but oftentimes that's not the thing to lead with, because there's different ways to give value depending on the circumstance and depending on what your offer is.
So, that makes me think. Oftentimes I hear people say that do have the group of people that you talk about, they get hit up by so many people. Well, I got this good thing. We could joint venture. We could make a lot of money. And that's what you're saying. Don't start there. Start by saying, look, I love writing. I create an article every month. I think it would fit your people, and I would like to give it to you every month to publish. All I ask is just put my name on it, as the author of it. Am I right on all that?
Yeah, that can be a good first step, and it's all about, when we talk about the approach, and that can be email, that can be on LinkedIn, that can be a direct message, or, what other means you have of pinpointing that person is, first of all, you want to make sure that you're addressing the right person, that they absolutely have your people, right? It's better to have 50 great connectors than 500 who kind of aren't really aligned, right? So it's being selective first and foremost. And yeah, you're right. In the initial approach, it's all about what's in it for them. They don't know you from Tom. They don't care about you. They don't care about your content. So you need to very quickly be able to hook their attention and establish what's in it for them without going into all the details, right? Because the first key is getting to the hook where they want to know more. They're like, okay, let's have a conversation, or tell me more, or, here's what I think, right? It's just, first of all, cutting through the noise and having that unique messaging. And yeah, it starts with delivering value.
Now, it sounds like you're a big fan of LinkedIn, that a lot of these connections, because, quite honestly, in LinkedIn, more of the higher-end business people, that's where they hang out. Is that true?
Yeah, LinkedIn could definitely be a great place for, starting these connections and starting these relationships. The first aspect of that is the different search criteria. There's different hyper-targeted lists you can build of potential connectors, right? And there's a few different types of connectors depending on the product or service that you have, right? There's people usually at the local level who are, I call them local gems, right? Because they may have smaller audiences, or they may have smaller groups of customers, but those people aren't getting bombarded by offers, and those people oftentimes have very, very good relationships. You can certainly pinpoint them on LinkedIn. There's also thought leaders, right? So many people have different podcasts, publications, newsletters, where it can be a natural fit. And then you have people who are providing a service or a product already, right? So they have those customer relationships. So each business is a little unique in pinpointing the strategy. LinkedIn can be a great vehicle for delivering that message and positioning yourself effectively. Certainly not the only way to do it. Personally, I've had success using a combination of LinkedIn and email. And at the same time, it really comes down to, and what's really important is that first message. Does it establish enough value, or does it seem like a pitch, right? And that's a key differentiation you have to create.
Makes sense. Now, definition of marketing overwhelm. I mean, because any of us that are in business, we think, well, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. And, it's just overwhelming. Does your Connect and Profit begin to help eliminate some of that overwhelm?
Well, Connect and Profit is the ultimate hack to marketing overwhelm. And here's what that means, right? Because as a business owner, you hear so many things you could or should be doing in your marketing. You should be doing direct mail. You should be doing Facebook ads. You should be on LinkedIn. You should be posting content. You should have a podcast. You should write a book. You should be doing this and that. And before you know it, there's a lot of shoulding and not a lot of results, right? So there's so many entrepreneurs who spend a great deal of time and money on marketing that really goes nowhere. And they're doing a bunch of different things and, throwing a bunch of things at the wall, hoping that something sticks. And what Connect and Profit does, it's the reverse of that, okay? Because it's about streamlining everything. And instead of you having to become this marketing wizard and create all these marketing systems, now what you can do is you can leverage others' marketing systems, right? Other people's customer relationships, other people's followings, other people's databases, other people's email lists. And all you need to do is make it super easy for them to put you in front of their people, okay? And make it appealing for their people to find out more. That's really the key thing that it comes down to. And then you need a conversion mechanism, okay? So it's the antidote to marketing overwhelm, because other people are doing marketing on your behalf. They're also receiving a great deal of value, and you're doing a lot less, right? You're not, doing all the things you could or should be doing, and you're getting the best quality possible leads. You're getting those high-paying clients coming to you, right? Because with each Connect and Profit connection that you make, you create a stream of clients coming to you, and that really starts to add up quickly.
Well, list people that have spent the money, the time, the energy to build a list, they're very protective of that list, obviously. So if you successfully convince them that connecting together, that you'll both profit, do you put anybody that uses, that buys whatever it is you have into your list, or is that not something you would do?
No, I certainly would. I mean, I think once they opt in, they also become a part of your audience. So there's people I know listening who have databases or who have email lists, but they may be wondering, hey, I've got a small list. I've only got a few hundred people. And you can that's still a way of giving value. You can still promote the other person back, even if you have a couple hundred people, but they're responsive, right? So certainly, adding them, growing your database is one of the best ways to continue to use Connect and Profit, to always be generating leads. And, you're right, people are going to be selective, especially if they've got those relationships. And that's why it's important to identify how you're going to give them value, right? Because this isn't about, using someone or trying to trick them into promoting to their people. It's very clear what the value exchange is. And usually it's a combination of things. Usually it's about them looking good, their audience receiving value. Sometimes it's about them also making some money. And when you combine all those things, the value exchange is there, right? And I think, not enough people who have your people, they're not getting approached well enough. Okay, they may be getting a lot of offers, they may be getting pitched to be on, these summits or these other things, but how often are they getting something that's crafted uniquely to them that instantly hooks their attention and gives value and starts to make a lot of sense for them? It's very rarely, even the people out there who have lists of, and I know some of them will have lists of 100,000 plus people. It's very rarely that they're getting something that would truly signify value, and at the same time, it's not that hard to do when you understand your messaging. So that's one of the little secrets about this is you can set yourself apart by having great messaging and a great offer for them.
Okay, so you gave me kind of a broad examples of something. Give me a specific example, a real life example of how that's worked.
Yeah, I can give you many, but let me start with one example, that happened that's near and dear to my heart, because last year, COVID happened and I was doing a lot of events and in-person workshops, and very quickly that went away. And so, I happened to be doing a webinar with someone who I met through a local connection, and from that webinar, a thought leader in the real estate investing niche who had a big list, had a big audience, he reached out to me. He was intrigued by the quality of the content. Okay, he was intrigued by the content. It was unique. He thought it'd be good for his audience. So we got to the hook point. He reached out. He and I had a conversation. Okay, what can we do together? How can we collaborate? Okay, and I thought about how can I make his life easy? I know he's busy. He's got a team. He's got stuff to do. He's got stuff to sell. I get it, but I want to make it so turnkey that it would be foolish for him to say no. So what we ended up doing, he had me on his podcast, okay, and that was last spring. We were going to do a webinar in the spring. We ended up doing it in the summer because of COVID and things were a little weird. So from that podcast, I received several high-paying clients, several leads coming to me wanting to know more about, and at the time the offer was around using LinkedIn to raise capital. So they were coming to me wanting to know more because I'd been on that podcast and because they had the light bulb moment listening to my voice on that interview. And then he and I did the webinar together. And again, I want to make something really clear here. I made it super easy for him. I gave him the email copy to use. We set up all the automation. Just like the only thing he had to do was show up to the webinar and say hello, pretty much. And of course, I made an offer on the webinar. He and I did do a rev split, and we both, as a result, pocketed more than $10,000 from that hour that we spent together on the webinar. So, that's one example. Another example that I'll give that's kind of more on the local level, a client I had, and he did this piece through LinkedIn. He positioned himself as an expert using his LinkedIn profile, which, online positioning is really important for Connect and Profit. You don't want to look like a doofus online. That's obviously a deal breaker. So he used some of the positioning strategies on LinkedIn, and then he had an offer. It was a giveaway. I think it was a guide or, a mini book, and his subject matter was reverse mortgages, right? And, he had a financial advisor who he connected with. And this was within the first 6 weeks of using the system. He already had 3 clients close within 6 weeks who were referred from that one connector, right? So, that's more of a local, granular example for someone who's a local service provider. The same principles apply, though. Made life super easy for the other person. There was a value exchange, and there was a uniqueness in that financial planner putting my client in front of his people.
Interesting. Well, I know there's a couple terms in your Connect and Profit. One is activate. The other is a value beam. Those are terms I've never heard. Explain what that means.
Yeah, so the picture of the Connect and Profit effect, and the value beam is part of it, is, ideally, if you're a business owner, you're listening to this and you're saying, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I haven't really done a whole lot of this in my business, or maybe I've done a little bit, but I know I want to do a lot more. You have to think about it as activating this Connect and Profit effect in your business. Because let's say in 90 days, you build 3 relationships with connectors, right? And you could build a lot more, but let's say you get just 3, and you've got 3 collaboration opportunities in whatever best way it'll apply to your business, okay? Each of those usually is going to snowball into one or two more. Just like, some people will listen to this podcast, and I guarantee you they'll say, hey, your stuff is great. Let's do something together, right? So it really starts to snowball, and after you do this for a few months, you start to activate the connect and profit effect, where you're seeing the majority of your leads and the majority of your clients coming to you without really having to market, right? Coming to you through these connector relationships, okay? And that's really the power of it, whether you're a local business or you're an online business, coach, consultant, with different kinds of service providers. That's activating the connect and profit effect. And I personally use it to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in direct revenue. And when we talk about the value beam, and I think about it like a balance beam, right? One of those things you see on the playground where you've got two kids, one on each side, and they're trying to balance out. One's heavier, so you want there to be a value exchange, and you want there to be a value balance in your connect and profit relationships. Okay, and the great thing that differentiates this from networking too is when you know what to look for, and you get very, very clear on who your key connectors are for your business. Okay, and you get clear on that. You don't have to go to these random networking events or to randomly not know who's in the room. Hey, maybe I'll meet someone who might be a good connector for me to connect with, who might have my people. You get to be intentional 100% of the way and create that outcome through using a system, and that's so much more powerful.
Yeah, certainly is. What if your list is small? You talked about that a few minutes ago, but maybe you only have a list of, on my email list or on my mail list, only maybe 25 or something. Is that a problem? Does that make me look too small to work with a connector?
Well, first of all, it depends on what their list is like. It depends on what creates value for them, right? So most people will play ball, right? And, one trick to it, too, is let's say, they've got a list of 50,000, you've got a list of 2,000, and one of the ways you're giving value is you're going to promote them, too, right? So they'll promote you, you promote them. That's one of the details in how you guys collaborate. Well, here's the thing, they can segment from those 50,000, they can segment 2 out of that, right? And if that's going to be part of the deal, they can email 2. It doesn't have to be part of the deal, though. So, your list is just the leverage point. It's just another way you can give value. Some people, like the example I gave earlier, I didn't have a list in that niche at that time, right? I had 0 on my list at that time. So what was the value for the gentleman who I talked about? First of all, it was a challenge that a lot of his people had. It was a hot topic, so it was making him look good. No one was talking about it at the time. Second piece, it was super easy for him. It wasn't a lot more work. It was turnkey. He knew that everything was going to be turnkey and go super smoothly, which it did. And the third thing is, of course, the opportunity to profit and generate some passive income where he didn't have to do any of the fulfillment or create a whole new product. So all those things made it very lucrative for him and something that was easy for him to say yes to, and it had nothing to do with the size of my list, because at the time I didn't have anyone on my list from that niche.
So yeah, just so he didn't have to do any work, and it was easy, and what you were offering was of value to his list, made it more the most important. Well, Yakov, I am looking at the clock, and we are almost out of time. But I know there are going to be people listening to this podcast that'll say, "Oh, I'm going to know a little bit more about that." Do you have someplace somebody could go? Anything that you want to offer to the listeners?
Yeah, so people can do a couple things. Number one, go on LinkedIn, connect with me, Yakov Smart. Let's be connected. Who knows, maybe what kind of opportunities there might be for us. Second thing, free online training. Go check out connectandprofit.co/training. It's a webinar. It's all about, some of the things that we talked about, and I'll be laying out the exact Connect and Profit system in detail on that webinar. So go check that out. That's connectandprofit.co/training.
So is and spelled out, or is it ampersand?
And is spelled out.
Okay, so connectandprofit.co
.co.
/training. Okay, so either connect with you on LinkedIn. Yakov is spelled, I'm going to look here, Yakov Smart, because he's a very smart guy. So Yakov Smart on LinkedIn, and then connectandprofit.co/training. Yakov, this has been so interesting. I mean, I've been writing like crazy. So any last words, anything that I forgot, anything that somebody would like to know about it?
Nope, I'll just leave people with this. I want to make sure that no matter what business you're in, you understand that it's highly applicable and highly relevant, right? You know, I've seen this work in my business. I've seen this work across a number of different businesses. And if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I haven't heard of anyone in my industry doing it, that's a great reason for you to do it and implement it, right? You will crush it by doing that. So I want to leave people with that. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Nina, for having me.
Well, you're welcome, Yakov. And this is Nina Hirschberger saying until next time, go out and connect to make that profit.
Thank you for listening to Megabucks Radio with Nina Hirschberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit megabucksradio.com.